Welcome back to She is Serious, a podcast where we showcase female athletes and their impact beyond the game. Each week, we will be bringing on influential women in the world of sports to tell their stories and why they are so much more than athletes. I'm your co-host, Taylor Hall, a college basketball player at Biola University and fitness influencer.
I am Ashley White, former collegiate women's basketball manager, advocate for women's sports, and a current writer blogger for Beautiful Ballers.
And this is why it's time that female athletes are taken
seriously.
We're super excited about this. This has been a long time coming, so.
I am a blogger, writer for Beautiful Ballers that highlights female athletes, and so I get a chance to just write articles and stories to share female athlete stories. I'm just excited about She is Serious, so let us go.
Let's go. Ashley has done it all. She has a ton of connections in not only the women's basketball world, but just the women athlete world in general. And so I'm super excited to be doing this show with Ashley. Anyways, my name is Taylor Hall. I am a women's basketball player at Biola University. I'm in my junior season. I've been able to find out through a couple ACL tears, through some setbacks in my college career, that I'm so much more than an athlete, and that I can bring a ton of value to the real world and into the market.
And I've seen it firsthand from a manager aspect. Like, you see, just honestly, you see men's sports like get more attendance and more booster support than, say, women's basketball. And even though we have just as great as players as the men's, it's always sometimes the program history of, winning season, or like you have people that says, oh, women's basketball is boring. And it's like, no, it's not. It's not boring. It's actually entertaining. But, that's just from my perspective of being a manager, and not just a manager, I will say, not just being a student manager, but a manager, a student manager that happens to be autistic. So that's from my perspective.
Which, for those of you who didn't know, I had no idea that Ashley was autistic. The girl is so amazing. I would never be able to tell, because of just the amazing things that you do and the way that you speak and the way that you communicate with others and the way that you carry yourself is just amazing. So for those of you that didn't know, Ashley is amazing.
From a collegiate athlete, in a way, a manager, I have, in ways, seen the behind the scenes messiness about it.
It seems crazy to me that you were expected to do all these things, but then have your own way to get to the games.
So managers, players and managers, have to be signed off by the athletic director. So the athletic director just says who gets to go, who does not get to go. So the athletic director knew who I was and stuff, knew what I had, whatever, and never signed me off to go. And literally, I've always wanted to say my piece about it, but of course, I always felt like if I said something, there's going to be people say, oh, she's salty about it. Oh, that can't be true. When I say I've been discriminated in sports, because I never got a chance to say travel, or got the opportunity to travel, or get the experience of what happened and stuff. The furthest that I traveled, say with the team one time maybe, was at High Point, but it was I think it was just a scrimmage game. But
use that as motivation to be who you are now, and be writing for Beautiful Ballers, which is huge. Make your own book, be a graphic designer. How were you able to take that as motivation to okay, I'll show you what I could do? Because literally, look at you now. You're literally writing for one of the biggest platforms on social media today. Beautiful Ballers is having an NBA All-Star game for NBA All-Star weekend, a Beautiful Ballers All-Star game, which is crazy.
I think it's called, I realize there's always a blessing behind every situation. I will say I've been a huge supporter of Beautiful Baller since their inception back in 2013. So like I used to, before I blogged for Beautiful Ballers, I used to blog for Silky Socks, which is a huge like sock company. You can customize all your socks and stuff. So I blogged for them a little bit, like just talk about basketball, the NBA or college basketball, and I literally did that. So like the chance to get to blog for Beautiful Ballers, which is amazing. I was able to share just stories about female athletes, like using the, my gift from, writing poetry over the years and just being able to do a lot of research on each female athletes, like from statistics to like what high school they played and how much impact they, say did on their high school to like they doing multiple sports and everything. Like I literally dive deep in, each of these stories. And I always want to make sure everything is precise and that their story is told precisely and perfect. Like perfect.
Yeah, the whole thing. I think that's not told enough. Like the whole story is not told enough. Like there's little bits and pieces that are put in media and it's like, oh, this person's life is so great, or oh my gosh, there's so many horrible things that have happened to them. But the full, complete story is not told. Like the questions that you asked are different than most people that like interview me or do write-ups on me that they ask, because it's like very personable. Like, what's your life story? Like, what's outside of basketball?
I'm just able to form, like, say, relationships with folks and, be able to, like, form a relationship with you or, like one of the top female athletes in Oklahoma State who is literally the highest NIL athlete in all of, like, Oklahoma State athletics. Like,
That's so dope.
Like, she's getting paid more. She's the highest NIL athlete in the whole Oklahoma State. Like, she's worth more than, say, the football team and everything, and which I think is amazing.
And see, we need to get her on here to talk about, like, see what women can bring to the marketplace. Like, you're telling me, like, women aren't valuable and women can't do this and that. Okay, but look who's making the most in NIL deals. It's women, right? It's the female. So, like, why do you think that is? Why are females being like the highest paid NIL athletes, but are still not respected like in the way that we should be in the real world? Do you know what I mean? Like, why is that? I don't understand. I just can't understand it.
We're women. That's the whole thing. Women. It's just women. Women.
Right.
Women. We, a lot of people don't understand.
You know what frustrates me too is like a lot of people don't like to watch women's basketball. Okay, we don't usually dunk. We don't do like 360 like dunks in the air, okay, in women's basketball. But again, people have not seen the evolution of the game of women's basketball. Like, I don't know if you remember the history of men's basketball, but men's basketball, they were not doing the things that they're doing today, like the stuff that Kyrie Irving can do, the things that he can do with the ball, the dunks that LeBron James can do in game. Like, that was not happening at the beginning of the NBA. Like, it takes time to evolve, and the women's game has evolved so much in such a short amount of time. I want to say, like, when was the WNBA? When did the WNBA first start? Like, what, like 30 years ago, 25 years ago?
97.
97. So it
will be the 27th or 26th year.
Which is so crazy. And like now we're seeing girls at the high school level starting to dunk. Like, women and their athleticism is evolving so fast. And just because we're not at the level, of athleticism as men, like, we're never going to be like that. But there is so many exciting things that people don't understand that we do because they don't watch. So they're like, oh, I'm not going to go to the women's game because it's boring. Like, there's no dunking happening. Like, we'll come and see all the other things that we can do. And it's actually really, really exciting. Like, especially the girls that are, coming on the come up right now. It's just like the game is evolving, and it's just super exciting to see how the destination. It's about the journey, the marathon to get there.
For sure, especially if you think about it. Back in the day, men weren't allowed to dunk in games. In college games, you weren't allowed to dunk. A lot of people didn't know that. And back in the day, there was no shot clock. shot clock happening until after the whole UNC Four Corners play, which, it was more of like a time waster, like it was slowing down time for folks. So a lot of people don't know that. And there's a lot of things. Oh, if we want to go back to history too about women, there was a black woman that got a chance to be drafted and play in the NBA that we didn't know about until till she died. And a lot of people,
That's crazy.
yeah, so a lot of people didn't know who she was until she died or was close to death. And a lot of people don't take the time about that. And there was a woman that played with the Harlem Globetrotters who played for Kansas, and she actually has more points, to be honest, than Kelsey Plum in college basketball. She was the first player to score all those 3,000 points in college basketball, where yes, Kelsey Plum scored that type of points in all her 4 years at Washington. But a lot of people don't know that. So it's a lot of the things that women in sports have done is not taking credit. It's not taken serious
It's not taken seriously at all.
Unless, like I said, unless someone is, let's say, death is almost knocking at someone's door or something happened to them.
Right, and then we need to put this on headlines, and then it needs to be on ESPN. No, we don't even get the publicity or even the screen time for people to even know about us. Just pushed under the rug, pushed under the rug, pushed under the rug. And at some point, we're let's go. We're serious, guys. You guys think we're joking? No, we're serious. We have so many things to bring to the table, and it's time that we're respected and that women are put on a platform because it's time.
Not to mention, women athletes have been the forefront of social justice. If you think about it, the National Women's Soccer League were the ones that pushed for equal pay, because even though they had more wins, the fact that the National Women's Soccer had more wins and more trophies than the National Men's Soccer, even though the National Men's Soccer didn't really win nothing. They haven't won a big trophy or a big World Cup, but they were getting paid more than the National Women's Soccer League team, which was crazy. They were pushing
That was insane.
They were pushing for equal, payment. Yeah, when it comes to social justice, when it comes to equal rights, it's always the women in sports. And yeah.
Right. And it's so cool too to see the women who are stepping up and putting their foot forward in sports, and all these women reporters, these women's writers just like you, all these women athletes that are just trying to spread awareness and trying to put our name out there. It's really empowering for us to see those people just go before us and just kind of set the tone, because we can talk about it all we want, we can say whatever we want, but actually putting it out there and then showing by example is super duper cool. So I think this is exciting, and we're going to bring on athletes too that are going to come on here and talk about how they're more than athletes, and just what they bring into the world as females in general, and not just in the sports world, because in the real world, how can we be taken seriously outside of sports as well? We're bringing a lot of value to the NIL world right now. How can we take that outside of college and then use that in our future careers, our future jobs? Because a lot of women want to be business owners. I know myself, in my future, my goal is to start my own athletic company, my own athleisure brand. And so right now, a big thing is social media and allowing ourselves to leverage that and leverage our brand and ourselves so that we're able to actually create a business of our own in the future. And again, I think that's not taken seriously. Social media is not going to last your whole life. Well, the reason that we're using social media right now is to leverage ourselves for the future. So I think it's pretty strategic in that way. It's a popular place. It's good for brands to market themselves, and they're using a lot of females. So I think that's showing we are really bringing value into marketing and into businesses in the real world. And it's not just a joke. Like we're not just out here on social media just to like show our bodies, or we're not just out here on social media just to like show like what we do as college athletes, what we eat in a day. Like we're trying to use that to leverage ourselves, and that's why we are more than athletes, because we're bringing so much value to just life, to just the world. I think a lot of times we're just not taken seriously, especially in the social media world. I know you see that a lot, Ashley. Like for ballers, for example, maybe people are like, this is like, why do we have this social media page? Like, it's just showing off women, like these beautiful women play their sports. Like, what is that doing? Like, it's empowering us women. We have this platform. We are all one together, and it's creating this family and this community. And it's it's showing that we are more than athletes. We're beautiful. We're strong. We are confident. We can bring this value to your brand. We can bring this value to your company. And I think that's what we're trying to do here on She Is Serious. Like when we're going to bring all these other athletes, we're going to create this community of like, we are serious and here's my story. Here's what I can bring into the real world, and kind of just, each individual leverage them up in the real world, and hopefully, allow them to be successful, not only on social media or, helping out brands, but just creating a brand of their own in the future.
Yeah, a lot of like if you think about it, a lot of the big names you see that's in NIL deals are from Power Five schools, to be honest. So unless say you have a big following, like a big following, it's going to be hard for a lot of people to have NIL deals, even if they're really good in their sport. So I think social media there's pros and cons about social medias. I feel like, especially with companies, they pick and choose if that athlete or that person would be a good look for them. Like, and I'm not just talking about like what they provide, but like their appearance wise, because, you know, in some ways we're human creatures. We like to see what a person looks like. We like to see, oh, if they're cute, oh, they're beautiful and all that stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, what happened to the inside? Like, it's like, hey, what happened to how you doing? How are you?
Right. See the picture, right? But then once you actually get to like know the person and you talk to them and you see like all their other values, like their attributes such as being outgoing, our true selves, and this is cool because like when we bring it to like a video format, then you can actually be like, oh my gosh, like I kind of know this person a little bit more. Like I kind of like feel I'm connected to them and I can relate to them on a different level.
And also, like, on top of that, we may have, like, less opportunities than our male counterparts. And that's where, like, we have to figure out a plan B, because there's going to be at times where the ball is going to we're not going to be able to dribble the ball anymore. We're not going to be able to run another race or, swim another lap. We're going to have to figure out a plan B. And I know a lot of people like, oh, there's no plan B. It's always plan A. Well, if you think about it, how many percentage of female athletes are in the league, like the WNBA?
Right.
How many female athletes that play soccer? How many are in there? How many are on the teams? Like, there's not enough, there's not barely any, like, say, semi-pro leagues. There's not even any just like pro AM leagues for women. It's usually, and then that's the case where women have to go overseas to play professionally. And yes, the money is great out overseas, but the con part is they're away from their family. They don't know when they'll get home for the holidays. Like,
Right. And
and
like we grow up thinking like just from being an athlete my whole life, like I felt like basketball was the only thing in my life, like literally, because I go to practice every day. I train for basketball every day. Like literally, my whole identity was just so wrapped up in basketball. And until I was able to take a step back, like through a couple injuries and realize that, oh, these are my other interests. I love to cook. I love to make videos. Do this after college. I want to do this, post basketball career. start training people, start doing something in like the health and fitness industry. Like it wasn't until I was able to take a step back from my sport for a little bit that I realized that. And I think that we shouldn't be so wrapped up in our sport. Like it's so hard not to be, because when you're in it, you're in it. You're like, I need to grind every day. I need to get to the next level, the next level. You're always pushing, looking for the next thing. But at the same time, like our whole life shouldn't be within our sport, because then it's like, who are we? Like, I know when I tore my ACL, I was like, who am I? Like, I'm just a basketball player, but now I can't play basketball. What am I supposed to do? And it's kind of like it's defeating. And I don't want that to be the case for everybody. Like, I want people to be able to live the life and have fun and be able to play basketball. Because at the end of the day, basketball is just a game. And it should just stay like as a game, and should be have, something fun to do. Some people, yes, it's going to be their careers for the rest of their life. Some people, that is their destiny, to be in the WNBA, to play overseas and make a bunch of money and stuff. But like for a lot of people, that's just not going to be the case. So how do we? What's your take on that? What's your take on how we can kind of like separate our identity from our sport?
I think if you have like, for me, I would say this. I graduated 2018 in December. So like when I had my last home game, managing my last home game, and when I had to travel to UNC to like wanting to manage my last away game, like
Mm-hmm.
my last home game of managing, I cried. I was very, I was emotional, because it was like I loved what I was doing. I loved it. Like I was all about it. I was, I played basketball also, like, I played in assist basketball for a local girls team back in Wilmington, and I played on the Special Olympics team for the county for Wilmington, and I was the only girl playing on the Special Olympics team 5-on-5, and ended up winning gold. And then
Okay, girl.
so like before, and the crazy thing is, like, even before COVID hit, like, Special Olympics for each state, they have like they choose like an athlete to represent the whole state. I was considered a nominee to represent the whole state of North Carolina for Special Olympics basketball, and that they get a chance to go, like, say, go in the NBA for like All-Star, to play in one of those Special Olympics like games with like the pro. I was considered a nominee for that, but of course
Period.
that year COVID happened, of course, so it was like, but I mean, I will say, I think sports will always be part of our life, but it's not who you identify with, because you can't take it when you go to heaven. You can't take it with you. You gotta figure out yourself. Like, that's the thing. You gotta figure out yourself. Like, I realized, yes, I am, I'm someone's daughter. I'm someone, that helps to be a future wife to someone one day, or hoping to be a mother to a child one day. And, it's like, and a lot of people don't understand. Being an athlete is also considered a job in a way. It's like, a lot of people don't understand. College athletes, that's a job.
People do not understand. People ask me all the time. They're like, "What job are you working?" I'm like, "I'm a full-time college student athlete. I have no time to go get a job right now." Like, they're like, "Oh, what internships do you have?" Blah blah blah. Like, there's literally no time in the day, especially with me like creating social media content and stuff. Like, okay, basketball on its own is literally full-time job. Like, we are in practice, we're at weights, we're in conditioning, in meetings for at least 6 hours of the day. On top of that, we have class. We have like 3 classes a day, and then we have to do homework. Like, there is no time for jobs.
Right.
There's no time for that kind of stuff. Like, we barely have time to talk to our friends. And you know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy. And I think a lot of people do not understand that. So that's why it's even a harder transition into the real world after college sports, because it's like we haven't been able to have that extra time to like actually go into the workforce, and just like step our foot in, because we've been in basketball our whole lives. We've been in on the track our whole lives. We've been in the pool our whole lives. And there's no extra time to be like, oh, like, let's see if I would love to try out real estate. Like, I don't have time to try that out. You know what I mean? Like, there's just no extra time. And like you literally hit it on the head. Like, People don't understand it's a full-time job. It's a full-time job, people. So stop asking us what jobs do we have as college athletes because
And then
it's
on top of
crazy.
that, you hear stories like I know I've heard stories where um, they have to leave class early, go to away games, so they're working on their homework while they're traveling. And
Yeah.
it's like there's no, and the misconception I will say is about student athletes too. A lot of people don't get. Yes, they get a scholarship, but that scholarship only pays for their classes and books.
Yes,
It
please.
doesn't pay for their food, doesn't pay for their housing. That's separate. And
Well, it depends on the scholarship too, right? So like sometimes if you're getting a full ride and you get a stipend on top of that, then you can pay for your housing and your food. But there's different levels of scholarships too, right? So not everyone gets a full ride. And then that, sometimes people have to pay for their school even, or sometimes they have to pay for their books. Like it depends on the work comes in and people like have to work. And that's when it comes to a point where you're overworking yourself because you're getting 4 hours of sleep a night. That is not enough to be able to practice at a high level. That's not enough to think properly. Like, you know what I mean? And it's not like we're working. People are like, oh, well, you're not working a 9 to 5 job. Like I work 8 hours a day and then I go to school. Well, it's different when you're actually like working out and your body needs like a certain amount of sleep, a certain amount of fuel to like perform at a high level because college sports is no joke. Like you're going hard every single day. Like there's no days where it's like an easy practice. I mean, some days are walkthroughs or some days are easier than others, but like you have to be mentally locked in. You have to be physically locked in like every day. And in order to do that, like we shouldn't be having to like overextend ourselves to the point where we're not getting any sleep. Like there should be a balance and there's not enough balance.
some athletes get burnt out from it. Like they
Yeah.
get burnt out from that. They get burnt out from, you know, they lose, they lose that passion for it because multiple reasons. They get burnt out from it, or because, you know, the program ain't, it's not right for them. The school ain't right for them. The coaches, it's not what they hoped that they would help, you know.
Absolutely.
That's, I think, a lot of people transfer for multiple reasons. That they transfer for, because you want to be close to family. They transfer to get a better opportunity. And some people transfer hoping, oh, they can get that instant success that they didn't really get their first year. Is like, that doesn't happen.
It
You
doesn't
don't.
happen. And I'll tell you, no, yeah. And the grass is not always greener because I was in the transfer portal. I went from Eastern New Mexico to Biola. And there's so many great things here at Biola that were not at Eastern. But at the same time, there's some things at Eastern that I'm like, dang, like I kind of liked that. And when I came to Biola and I expected to happen, like coaches will tell you this and that, but that's not always, the complete truth. Like you really, really have to talk to the players. You have to talk to the rest of the staff and just kind of see like, okay, is this going to be a good fit for me? And it's not ever going to be perfect. Like everyone's looking for like the perfect place, but honestly, like I don't know if that exists because you get some things, like you gain some things and then you lose some things. And this is not a great system for me to fit in. And I had thought coming into this school that I was going to fit great into it, but then you get here and it's a whole different thing. And so, and at the end of the day, you can only control what you can control. So you can control how well you do in practice. You can control how hard you work. You control um, your energy, your effort, all these things that you can control. But at the end of the day, you don't have control on your playing time. And so you just have to give your all and then just like be at peace with that. That this is what like super frustrating and it can be mentally like draining. But I think when you have peace with like you're literally doing your best and ultimately my goal and I think everyone's goal in life should just to be happy. So like when we're at peace and we're happy within ourselves, that is all that matters and that's what we can control and no one else should be able to like control or take away our happiness because at the end of the day we started playing basketball because we love it and it's so fun and maybe this is not like maybe we don't fit into this college basketball system, maybe we don't fit here, but you know what, there's so many other things to basketball, there's so many other things. And I think that that's what has like helped me, and what might help a lot of other athletes too, is just to find, what are your other things that you enjoy outside of basketball, and what are your other strengths that you bring to life in general. And so that way you're not so caught up in your sport all the time, and just being like, oh, my identity is an athlete, because then it can really like, bring you down. And I've gone through that over the last couple of years. It's been tough, but I feel like this year I'm in such a better mindset, just because I was able to just switch and be like, you know what, I can control my happiness, and I'm confident within myself and all the other attributes that I bring to life, and I know that, maybe this isn't for me, but there's other things that are for me.
And that's the thing. A lot of people think their sport is the end all be all. From my experience, I was able to help like my head coach with her camps, and I loved it. I loved it. I love, helping with kids. I love the experience. Like, it helped me gain experience of what to, why I want to continue in the sports industry and things.
Absolutely.
And like, say if I want to continue and get a sports, work in sports, like get a job in sports, I can take that, what I learned, and utilize it with that job and get paid more money probably with it, even though it's maybe a corporation or business. So, but still,
just finding what you love within that venue of sports.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people don't understand. I literally just made a post yesterday. I uploaded a post, and I literally say, being a woman in sports is it's a blessing. Being a woman in sports with autism, it's an unexpected journey, yet a blessing to me, because I'm able to use what I have, from the experience of playing ball to like teaching, to like assistant coaching, playing, to, managing, and, being able to utilize that to now like owning my own graphic design business and selling my artwork, and, creating a great logo for this amazing, the amazing podcast.
But she is serious, like, yeah.
Yeah, and, being able to write for the biggest brand that highlights female athletes, and, just writing a book. And now, like, with She Is Serious, I'm already, like, with this plan, like, wanting to, for each chapter of, like, the book that I want to do with She Is Serious, I want each athlete to explain their story. Like, what's your sports story? Like, explain how you are more than an athlete, because a lot of people don't understand. They are more than an athlete. Like, what were you before you played your sport? You got to figure out what you were before you played your sport, and what you are after your sport.
Absolutely. And you don't have to play at a high level in order to do that. You know what I mean? Like, you could play in middle school, and then that could be like a little spark, and, oh, I actually want to be a part of basketball, but maybe you don't want to play. Maybe you want to be like a manager. Maybe you just want to be like a coach. Maybe you want, like, there's so many different avenues of women in sports. You could be a reporter, you could be a writer, you could be this and that, and you don't have to be playing the sport, but you can still stay involved in so many ways. And like, I think that's what's exciting about going through college athletics and just like being an athlete through my whole life, because I know that I want to stay like in sports, in like health and fitness and all that whole realm. I want to like stay within that, because that's what I love, and it will always be a part of me. But I know that, like you said, at some time the ball's going to stop bouncing, and I'm going to have to take the other different routes, but I want to still stay, in sports, because that's going to always be a part of us as athletes. But we can bring so much to the real world and into other aspects of sports too.
I will say also, from my experience of being a manager, I was able to, be selected to go to, like, at the time there was a nonprofit sports program where they get to choose different managers and, director of basketball operation people and GAs to do ministry work. And, I signed up for it, and I got picked to, like, just do a mission trip, to be part of a mission trip. And,
Which is so cool.
yeah, and, just being able to, with that position, I was able to learn more about different, positions within the sport that people go in. Like, there were people that were in soccer or baseball or basketball that were like video coordinators or director of basketball operations, graduate assistants. And a lot of people don't understand you could be a manager, but also, like, being a manager, you can learn your way up there. Because it's
Oh, yeah,
not,
absolutely.
yeah, so a lot of people think that, oh, you have to be a player to be a GA and stuff. Like, no, not particularly, but if you're really interested and love what you do and love and have the passion for that, like, go for
And you
it.
put the time and effort in to like research, to do extra work, and just for example, the Miami Heat basketball coach, right? He's a great NBA basketball coach. What did he start as? A
A video
manager, I want to
coordinator.
say. A
A
video
video.
coordinator. Yeah. And so he had never, he might have played, but didn't play at a very high level, worked his way up, and now he's like one of the highest paid coaches in basketball because he's coaching at the NBA level. Like, that's just
And
crazy.
got 2 championships out the way.
2 championships. Like, start as a video coordinator. So you don't have to be like the greatest basketball player or the greatest athlete of all time. Like, yes, that does help, of course, but you don't have to be that in order to bring something, like, in order to work at the next level. There's so many options and so many things that we could do. But so I'm super excited for the rest of our episodes. We're going to bring some athletes on here, show you why we're more than athletes. We're serious. Women are bringing it. And I think Ashley's serious. Tay is serious. She is serious. Tune in. We're going to have new episodes every week. And we're going to bring on some athletes on here that you guys are going to want to hear. So make sure you tune in and make sure you guys keep up with us. She's serious, baby. She's serious.
She is serious.
Period. Sis. Period.
Period.